Assalamu alaikum everyone. Our today's topic is what is vocabulary. It is a very important topic of applied linguistics. Vocabulary learning is an important aspect of language learning process. So you can say that vocabulary learning is the key to all other aspects of language learning. So building up your vocabulary is probably the most important part of the learning process. Wilkins 1972 has given a very interesting statement about vocabulary importance. He stated, while without grammar very little can be conveyed, but without vocabulary nothing can be conveyed. We can define a vocabulary as the set of words within a language that are familiar. These are known as a person's vocabulary. It develops with age and is a crucial tool for communicating and acquiring language. So, acquiring an extensive vocabulary is one of the largest challenges in learning a second language. A formal definition of vocabulary has been given by Newman and Ware 2009. They define vocabulary as the words we must know to communicate effectively. It means the words in speaking and words in listening. The words in speaking can be defined as expressive vocabulary, and words in listening can be taken as receptive vocabulary. Now we'll discuss the importance of vocabulary. A large vocabulary helps us to communicate and express what we mean. Without vocabulary, we are unable to communicate and express what we mean. The size of your vocabulary is directly linked to your reading comprehension. Likewise, a person may be judged by others based on his or her vocabulary. A very interesting statement has been given by Smith, which reflects the importance of vocabulary. Smith 1998 stated that one important finding from research suggests vocabulary learning never stops. So we can say that it's a natural and lifelong phenomena which goes on. People judge you by the words you use. So this is the importance of vocabulary, that we are judged by the words, by the vocabulary we use. So there are some statements given by different researchers which reflect the importance of vocabulary. For example, vocabulary is a bridge to learn other language skills and components. Another statement is the core of a language is its vocabulary. Vocabulary mastery can affect the mastery of a language, according to Terrigan 1989. So we can say that mastering vocabulary is required to master a language. Primarily, there are two major ways to learn vocabulary, and all the four skills of language learning can be applied to learn vocabulary. Nation 2001 has also mentioned two ways through which vocabulary can be learned. The first way is to learn vocabulary through oral skills, which involves listening and speaking. For example, in listening, learners can pick up new vocabulary as teachers read to them, and in speaking, learners are suggested to memorize as well as vocabulary knowledge a large number of clauses and phrases. The second way is to learn vocabulary through written skills, which involves reading and writing. For example, in reading, students can learn new vocabulary by guessing words from context, and in writing, teachers ask for words to be marked so it can be used to encourage vocabulary development. How should vocabulary be learned? In the previous slide, we discussed two major ways to learn vocabulary. These two ways can be viewed in another way. Number one, learning vocabulary from meaning focused input, and number two, learning vocabulary from meaning focused output. When we talk about learning vocabulary from meaning focused input, it means that listening and reading are involved here. According to Nagy, Herman and Anderson 1985, learning from meaning focused input, that is learning incidentally through listening and reading, accounts for most first language vocabulary learning. Although this kind of learning is less sure than deliberate study, for native speakers there are enormous opportunities for such learning. The core of the meaning focused input strand of a course is a well organized, well monitored, substantial, extensive reading program based largely but not exclusively on graded readers. When we talk about learning vocabulary from meaning focused output, it means that speaking and writing are involved here. Learning from meaning focused output, that is learning through speaking and writing, is necessary to move receptive knowledge into productive knowledge. Joe, Nation and Newton 1996 describe guidelines for the design of speaking activities that try to optimize vocabulary learning by careful design of the written input to such activities. These guidelines include predicting what parts of the written input are most likely to be used in the task, using retelling, role play, or problem solving discussion, which draws heavily on the written input, and encouraging creative use of the vocabulary through having to reshape the written input to a particular purpose. Vocabulary learning can be intentional or incidental. Here we will discuss intentional vocabulary learning versus incidental vocabulary learning. Incidental learning is the process of learning something without the intention of doing so. And according to Richards and Schmidt 2002, it's also learning one thing while intending to learn another. Different researchers are of the opinion that in terms of language acquisition, incidental learning is said to be an effective way of learning vocabulary from context. Incidental vocabulary learning motivates learners for extensive reading. It also involves learners' ability to guess the meaning of new words from the contextual clues. Intentional vocabulary is opposite to incidental vocabulary. In intentional vocabulary, learning based on synonyms, antonyms, word substitution, multiple choice, scrambled words and crossword puzzles, regardless of context. That is why it is not so effective, because learners are more prone to rote learning. They cram the meaning of new words without undergoing cognitive process. Mainly there are three types of vocabulary. Number one, general vocabulary. Number two, specialized vocabulary. And number three, technical vocabulary. General vocabulary consists of words with acknowledged meanings in common usage. It means that these are the words which are commonly used. Specialized vocabulary is made up of words from everyday life. General vocabulary that takes on specialized meanings when adapted to a particular content area, it becomes specialized vocabulary. Technical vocabulary consists of words that have usage and application only in a particular subject matter field.